Hey everyone, Coomber Radio, episode 133. Yeah! I'm a little bit excited, Rachel. I'm going to be honest. I'm excited because, well, it's many things. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why I'm really excited. The weather at the moment in the UK is freaking stunning, and that's a reason to be happy. It means you can start getting a tan and stop looking like a ghost, fill up on your vitamin D, have barbecues in the summer in the evening with your family and stuff. Go for a late night dog walk. I just love it. And really cool things are happening behind the scenes. I've taken on a business development manager that works across my companies. We've got new coaches coming on board. We've got a new head coach, body type nutrition. It's lifted loads of pressure off my shoulders. Rachel, things are good.
Hello, Ben.
Yeah, enough about you, Ben.
I'm loving your energy, and I'm really excited because it's been about a month since I've properly spoken to you outside of Facebook messaging, WhatsApp, and whatever else we communicate on. So it's nice to see your pretty face and to see that you're glowing with all of the joys of spring.
Yeah, spring at the moment in the UK is really, really nice. And I don't know if people can hear in the background on the podcast, I got my window open this morning and you can hear the birds tweeting because I live in like middle of nowhere in the sort of suburbs of Suffolk. And it's just beautiful. Everything is just beautiful.
Oh, that's so nice. I have to confess that I actually, when I live in Sydney now, and when you live in a sunny climate, you don't appreciate the small things like that unless you're at the beach or something. So I do remember those dark, long winters of being in the UK, and those first days of spring are so amazing. And I have to say the reverse is true in Sydney at the moment. So it's got a little bit colder. I have to say it's been a welcome change. I'm a little bit over the heat and the humidity, to be honest. So now it's hoodie weather, which is great. It's cool, crisp, sunny, and yeah, life is good here.
So this is interesting because, people complain a lot about, various aspects of their environment and their health and all sorts. We in the UK complain about the rain, about the cold, about the snow. Then when it gets too hot, we complain about it. And one reason I love the UK is I love the seasons. Like, people say, oh, I'd love to live in Spain where it's hot every day. And I think I would learn not to appreciate it. It's like anything in the environment. If I told my girlfriend I loved her several times a day, every day, for example, that same way that I said it, and the same tone, and because I said it more all the time, it would probably mean less. Because it's just it's a repetitive environmental stimulus. But we have crap days in the UK, and then we have an amazing day, and I find it really makes you appreciate it. Like, me and my girlfriend stayed in last night. We had date night. I cooked. We did nothing. We watched an hour of telly. We relaxed. We ate some food. We took the dog for a really long walk, and she was like, this is really nice. I wish we could do this more often. And I said, you know what? If we did this like 4 or 5 times a week, we wouldn't enjoy it as much. We wouldn't see it as a change of pace. We wouldn't engage in it as much. And I think in life it's good to have these variables because you appreciate both the pro and the con and how it makes you feel.
Exactly. There's never a shade. Well, in fact, there's plenty of shades of grey. But if it was all shades of grey, then it would be rather dull. Sometimes you have to have your black and your white, and your yes and your no, and your pink and your blue, and that's what makes you appreciate the good times is when you have the bad times.
Exactly.
And vice versa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, embrace it, people. Embrace it.
And I've just noticed you must be standing up because you're fidgeting a lot.
Yeah, I am. I do movement podcasts now. I do podcasts while I'm stretching my calves. I'll do stretch. You might see me like dip out of picture. So I might be stretching my hamstrings, doing a few push-ups. And it's my new standing desk, which I work on about 50% of the day.
Nice. Well, fair play. That's a good effort. And I've got a new toy. This Fitbit. Now, I was kind of sold on this Fitbit by one of my clients who I happen to be quite competitive with. So Mike comes into training one day and he's got this black thing on his wrist. And the first thing I said to him was, "Where's your Breitling watch?" And he said, "Oh, look, I'm not wearing that to training anymore. I've got this thing. And he showed me his Fitbit and what it did. And I said, well, what benefit do you get from that? Like tracking your heart rate and your steps and stuff. And, he was telling me how he is kind of more motivated to get out of his office. And, so I thought, you know what, that's a pretty good idea. I'm going to buy one of these. So off I went and I bought myself a Fitbit. And one thing became evidently clear over the first 3 days of wearing it, and that's that I am an active sedentary person, meaning that when I go to the gym, I'm extremely active, but then I spend the rest of my day sat on my ass in my office, or I'm in and out of meetings. I'm just not an active person. So on average, my average steps were between 6,000 to 8,000 steps per day. So every day now, since I've had my Fitbit, I've been making sure that I get out and I do at least 12,000 steps a day. And in that time, so I've been doing that now for about 10 days, I have seen more sunrises and sunsets by the beach. My sleep has improved and I've got leaner. Obviously I'm burning more calories and all of that kind of stuff, but the enjoyment factor is that, I've seen these nice things, and like you said, you appreciate these things a lot more, and it forces me out of my office. So I am a bit of a self-confessed workaholic. So, it usually gets to about 6 p.m. and I think, oh, well, I can do another hour before dinner. But if I check my Fitbit and I've only done 5,000 steps that day, then hell, I'm going to get off my ass and go and walk, because it doesn't mean that I can't come back and, do another half an hour to an hour of work later. So, I'm a big fan of it. It's probably taken me, I'm a bit of a slow adopter. But it's been a really good experiment. And like I said, I'm probably now about 2.5 weeks in. But I'm certainly going to start recommending it, particularly to my corporate clients who spend a lot of time at their office desk.
I'd like to bet that when you come back to work as well, you're a lot more productive. So if you didn't go for a walk and you were about to do an hour and a half's work and you went for a half an hour walk, that hour when you came back, you'd be way more productive.
100%, and that was my closing comments. Thank you for stealing my limelight.
And I think this is what people miss. You get caught up in the moment of, I just need to get this done. I've put this time aside, and it does take a lot of self-discipline to say, do you know what, actually, if I walk away and take my mind 100% off what I'm doing right now, when I come back, I'll be of better quality. So what I do now, I usually get up in the morning and start work around 5:30, 6 a.m. And I'd usually work all the way through till about 3, and then I'd train, and then I'd be off. Some days, most of the days I'd go off, and sometimes I'd come back and do stuff. Sometimes I'd be teaching the academy in the evening, things like that. So now I'm kind of breaking at around 1. I'm going into the gym, taking my mind completely off things. The gym for me resets my brain. Like I go in there and I come out and my thought process is totally rewired, because like you, I do a huge amount of multitasking every day, and that fatigues the brain. Like it catches up on you slowly and your brain just slows down. So I'll go in the gym and then I'll come back out and I'll do about an hour and a half to 2 hours work, and I just fire through it. Like I'm on fire. But I had to have that discipline to stop and say, no, that stuff can wait. Don't worry about it. I'm going to get into the gym and I'm going to come back fresh.
Absolutely, because you kind of, it's very hard to sometimes pull yourself away, and that's where I really liked this Fitbit thing, because it's really forced me, and I compete against myself. So it's an interesting little tool.
Yeah, I've used the Jawbone before. I want to review a couple of others before I sort of maybe do a video on it or something like that, because they're getting really popular. There's a lot of smartwatches and bracelets and all sorts about now. But, they need to be kind of, a lot of them aren't that user-friendly. The Fitbit app, for example, used to be a bit crap, whereas the Jawbone app used to be really easy to use, and I liked it. So, they've got benefit there. Big time.
Well, the Fitbit app is super simple. It's got 5 things that you can register, 5 or 6 different things that you can track your progress. So it's very straightforward and easy. Anyway, got any other news before we start with some questions?
No.
No.
For anyone that's deliberating, our Scotland conference is on the 23rd and 24th of May. It's looking really good. We've got about 80 people in the house. So get on board, join those 80 people. It's going to be a great weekend of learning. I will be at Body Power this year on the 15th and 16th. That's the Friday and the Saturday. I'll be milling around, just chilling, talking to people, saying hello, helping people out, and I'll also be on the Jordan fitness stand here and there doing a little bit, but I'm mainly just there to enjoy it this year. And then for anyone that wants to see me and Rachel in Spain, Rachel will be popping in, but we're running health and fitness retreats in Marbella, Spain this summer, where we train together, we eat, we learn, we do seminars, we do strongman training, we do a brutal outdoor assault course. If you want to check that out, it's on bodytypenutrition.co.uk on the homepage there. Come and see us in Marbella. And I will be there in person in June and July. It's the first week of June and July. Rachel will be popping her head in on the June week here and there to say hello, maybe do a training session with us and stuff. And then we've also got a week in August. So if you want to come spend some time with me in Spain, get onto the Body Type Nutrition homepage ASAP. Largely because the flight prices will just keep climbing the longer people leave it to book. Rachel, let's help some people. Let's answer some questions.
Awesome. Let's get on with it. Okay, so this first question is from Jay. Ben, thank you for putting out a wealth of information through your podcast. As a physique competitor and a lifelong athlete, the information you provide is invaluable. On my contest prep this year, my nutrition plan has been low in carbs but higher in healthy fats, and for me, this has given me spectacular results. What are the best dietary healthy fats, and rank them if at all possible? I currently use coconut oil, Evo, and avocado. I have seen almond and walnut oil, but I have not tried them yet. Thanks again for everything you and Rachel do. Cheers.
Well, thank you for the kind comments. Do you know what? Fats is an interesting one, and the reason why I put this question in, as basic as it seems, is because, you know, she's a fitness competitor that likes a high-fat diet, and I think it's great because she's found her feet with that, and I think that's really good. You know, I personally, I've just finished my rugby season, so I'm now going into off-season training. So I'm in the gym 4 days a week at the moment. I'm going to work up to 5 days a week. And, you know, for the first 2 months, it's going to be very high volume. I want to try and put on a couple of kilos of mass. Then I'll move into a strength and power phase. And despite the fact that I'm, you know, going a bit more higher volume, I don't, you know, my sessions in the gym are usually a bit strength-based in season. You know, my carbs aren't, for some reason, flying out of the window. A lot of time people, they're like, oh, I need to gain body weight. I train in the gym hard. I need tons of carbs. You don't need tons of carbs. The devil is in the dose. You know, I'm training hard at the moment, and my carb intake per day will probably be around 150, maybe 200 on a higher day. But that's enough for me. Any more, I kind of get a bit tired with it. I find I hold fluid around my hips and waist, which I don't particularly enjoy. So, you know, don't think that we need tons of carbs. If you were doing tons of glycolytic-based training, a lot of endurance stuff, cool. Throw loads of carbs in there, brilliant. But find your own sweet spot. Tons of carbs won't equal tons of performance. So, I suppose to come back to our question, coconut oil is amazing. Real coconut, so both dried, desiccated, and the fresh fruit. Evo, which is olive oil, is amazing. Avocado. I'd then obviously not discount. I'd eat all the nuts, all different types of nuts. Can be problematic because they can be high in calories, so watch the amount that you kind of dive in for. Nut butters, seeds, seed butters. Again, there's loads of different oils: almond oil, walnut oil, avocado oil, peanut oil if it's kind of cold pressed, it's not heat treated, avocado oil, butter, ghee, lard, animal fats, yogurt, cheese,
cream.
Cream's
my favourite.
And I think that's kind of it for fats. Dark chocolate. Don't forget
Oh,
the dark
coconut
chocolate.
butter. You can't forget coconut butter. That's the best.
Coconut. Oh, yeah, but that's the same as coconut oil, basically, isn't it?
No, it's not. It tastes different to coconut oil.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, they use a different part of the fruit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's almost got the coconuttiness to it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more like, this is going to sound really weird, but it kind of tastes like a bit like icing sugar. It's got like the consistency of icing sugar when it melts in your mouth.
Yeah.
Can you tell I really like coconut butter?
It's a bit more Bounty-esque as well.
It is. It is. I have to say I don't like coconut oil because I've eaten too much of it in my time, but I really like coconut butter.
Oh,
and Phil
Learning
was telling me, Phil was telling me that now in the UK apparently you can get like cinnamon coconut butter and flavoured coconut butters. Is that right?
I have no idea, but I shall investigate.
I'll ask Phil because he's got a range of them. He sent me a picture the other day. He's got a heap of them in his kitchen with different flavoured coconut butters, apparently.
Oh, wow. I will check it out.
Cinnamon flavoured and all of that kind of stuff. Ask him. They sound delicious. Okay. And very dangerous to have in the house.
Yeah.
If you're that way inclined.
Yeah, it does sound awful.
Okay, I think that's all for that question.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So the next question is from Rachel. Hi Ben, my question is fairly short. To cut a long story short, I have beaten eating disorders, the most recent being binge eating. My diet is now great and I have been binge free for over 2 years. Linked with various bouts of anxiety, I have now developed a new problem or issue that has manifested in its place. I now have full control over my diet. I am a happy weight and I can see my abs clearly. My problem is guilt. I cannot eat things or enjoy food or enjoy any food related events. Most recently being Easter without the guilt. I'm in a position where I teach 3 to 4 classes a day on top of my training. Do you have any tips to enjoy bad food? Obviously in moderation, of course. Thank you, Rachel. Feel free to mention that I was on Lane Norton's podcast this week talking about this at length.
Yeah, that bit was a note for you, Rachel. That wasn't part of the question. Let me apologise for my co-host's poor admin people. The reason why I think this, we've talked about this question before, and in various different contexts. Now, I wanted to kind of almost bring together information that people can go away and look at if they're struggling with this. Now, I talked about this a lot. I've just done a podcast recording with Perry Nicholson, who does I've forgotten the name of his podcast. It's just gone. It's like Pain-Free Performance or
Stop the Pain.
Stop Chasing Pain.
Stop Chasing Pain. That's
it. And I've just talked about this very subject quite a bit on his podcast. So I'll go and check that episode out. It should be going a week after this episode goes up. I've just been on Lane Norton's podcast thinking about this very topic, and also it's something that's kind of grown into a bit of a beast in the fitness industry. So the paleo diet has come, it's got big, primal, caveman, whatever you want to call it, however you want to package it, and this kind of concept of clean food, and people have embraced this, which is brilliant, right? People have got more energy from eating real foods, they're feeling really good, which is perfect, but the problem is they've got so caught up in real whole foods, but they don't know how to exercise the social element of their life. So it's like, okay, so when I go out to dinner at the weekend, what the hell do I eat? And there's some people going, well, it's easier to just not go out and eat. But that's not just life. Me and Rachel have talked about this a lot, that we do these things to live a better life. So another episode of the podcast, which I think was the last show that we did, talked about depression and food phobias, that kind of stuff. I think it's important that you listen to that show as well. And I think it's important that you potentially go and seek therapy. It sounds like you've had some kind of therapy before, but talking to someone puts a lot of this kind of stuff into perspective. That's why when you're having a shit day and sometimes you pick up the phone to your close mate and it just takes them to say a few things that put things into perspective. And a lot of the time, that's what a therapist does. It's a very clever best mate. It's important as a kind of closing note, really, that you start to understand what's in food. If you eat 2,000 calories a day and they're all quote unquote clean foods, and you want to go out of the weekend and you want 800 calories to be unclean foods, quote unquote, that's okay. If you're doing this 1, 2, 3 times a week, it is okay. If you believe in the fact that the energy equation, so how much you eat, is largely going to dictate your body mass, then that should fill you with confidence to say, well, if I eat what I'm designed and meant to eat for my maintenance level of calories, it's okay to go out and eat 800 calories of Chinese food, for example.
I think it's such an area where people become, particularly with this is essentially all it is it's still an eating disorder of some description. So it's not it's disordered eating. It's not a clinical eating disorder. It's still disordered eating being manifesting in just a slightly different way. So I would be quite straightforward here, Rachel, and say to you that the issue still hasn't been dealt with. It's just manifesting itself in a slightly different manner, and perhaps not quite such a severe manner. So you've done a lot of work, obviously, to overcome a binge eating disorder, which is a very serious disorder, to one where you're now of a healthy body weight. Teaching 3 to 4 classes a day, that's still a lot of stress on a body.
Yeah.
Still a lot,
Mate,
a lot
to
cope
calories.
with. That's a lot to cope with. And I can tell you now, if you're not eating enough calories, then your body is basically saying, fucking feed me. And that's probably why you're scared to eat something that isn't in your plan, so to speak, because you know deep down that could end up in a binge. And I think the reason behind that is potentially you may not be eating quite enough calories to sustain what you're doing long term.
What we could do in this situation is actually plan these foods. So let's say I can imagine Rachel here is quite a planner with her food. So she either knows what she's going to eat for the day or maybe even the week. So sit down and say, right, these are my calories for the week. This is what I'm going to do. I know that I'm going out or I've been invited out for dinner on Wednesday night. So plan your first 3 meals and then plan your final meal. Go onto the restaurant's website, look at what the menu is and go, do you know what? I really fancy a Hawaiian pizza, for example. Look how many calories are in it. Most websites these days tell you the calories in their meals. And it might say, right, that meal is 1,100 calories. So you then plan that into your plan. You say, okay, here is 1,100 calories. Right, the rest of my meals need to be X, Y, and Z. Then I'm doing the same on Friday night. And then on Sunday, I'm going to bake myself a homemade cheesecake, for example. And I'm going to eat a slice that's 200 grams, for example. And you plan that into your plan. So visually, you can sit there and go, do you know what? I've accounted for all my numbers and I've programmed in some foods that I want to eat. And if you're sitting there staring at that plan, it should fill you with confidence. You've done your homework. You've got to grips with the numbers. But 90% of your plan is foods that increase vitality, health and performance. And that is okay.
100% back that up. But Rachel, that will give you the confidence to be able to then, once you've done that for a period of time, start relaxing a little bit more. But, it is about, like I said, Ben and I've talked about this so many times, it's about enjoying food. I fully believe that food is one of the 7 wonders of the world. It connects people and it provides very enjoyable experiences. So it's something that, anxiety around food is certainly a passion of mine to try and reduce in women. Awesome. Next question.
Awesome.
This question is from Lee from Newcastle. I'm not going to try and do any impressions today. I was about to, and then I was like, oh God, hang on a second. This is going to take me totally back to my, oh God, Biker Grove. Oh my God. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Biker Grove. Yeah.
That was where PJ and Duncan were born, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was a programme that I would watch after school. That was like an after school programme, wasn't it? That was exactly my era.
And mine too, though. Yes, we can tell we're the same age. So there was Biker Grove, and there was another one as well. And I'm sure it alternated days. It was like Biker Grove, and then it was something else on like Biker Grove was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then there was something else on Tuesday, Thursday, and I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it was just before Neighbours.
at that time period was, I don't know why, Bodger and Badger.
Oh God.
Bodger
Yeah.
and Badger,
Badger,
Bodger and
Badger,
Badger, na na na.
Oh, that was funny. And Badger used to love his mashed potato, didn't he?
Yeah, I love that program.
Oh, back in the day, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, I still remember all the words to Postman Pat as well, but let's not go there. Hi, Ben and Rachel. Can I say firstly that I love the podcast and it has genuinely helped me improve my diet and probably more importantly, given me a more realistic perspective when it comes to training. Because of the show, I am now a lot calmer when it comes to achieving my goals. Anyway, apologies if you feel that this has been covered before, but I kind of have a specific query regarding shift work, if you don't mind. I currently work 1 week of night shifts every 3 weeks. My other 2 shifts are fine for training, but the night shift is where I have a few questions and that I'm hoping that you can answer. My main query regarding training on the night shift is stress. Working a night shift is a big stress on the body anyway, without doing the added training. So I was wondering if there's anything that you could recommend to reduce the stress levels when working this shift. I'm currently working towards the back end of the week I'm currently working out towards the back end of a week once my body has adapted a little, but I still feel my stress levels will be high. After all, I've been awake when I should be asleep and asleep when it's broad daylight outside. I also make an effort to try and cut out caffeine, as I know this isn't going to help things. I've been working these shifts for 8 years now, and I really feel like this will catch up with me eventually if I don't make at least an effort to minimise it. Also, should I supplement with vitamin D? Not stress related, but I feel like I'm probably going to be deficient. Any information would be greatly appreciated. Lee from Newcastle. P.S. I know she's been on a while now, but can I say that Rachel is a great addition to the podcast? Thanks again. Oh, thank you, Lee. That's very nice.
Rachel, you are indeed a top addition to this podcast.
Oh, well,
I
thanks,
concur.
Benny.
Do you know what? I'm going to go straight in with a very specific recommendation for Lee, and people can read into it as much as they like. So, firstly, vitamin D. Yes, going to be essential. 3,000 IUs a day. So the night shift, he does 1 week out of every 3. So it's basically a week in his life that's turned upside down. He's awake when he's meant to be sleeping, sleeping when he's meant to be awake. So the body is kind of stressed. Now, what is a little bit problematic is you don't tell me what type of training you did. And that could have helped me out a little bit. Now, one thing that happens when we don't sleep properly is our central nervous system takes a beating. So the last thing you want to do in that week is do any heavy conditioning, so anything too explosive that just takes too much out of the body, or any strength-based training. I wouldn't do anything that's like really low rep, because that's going to take the central nervous system a long time to heal, and it's already stressed. So I would personally program your training in 3-week blocks. And the first 2 weeks where you're kind of, we'll say, normal, and your shift pattern is normal, I would train hard. I would train like maybe 4 or 5 days a week, depending on your schedule and your goals and how much you want to get out of your training. And I would beast yourself. I would almost peak really tough in your training. And then I would take like 3 or 4 days off. I would do a hypertrophy or non-low rep based training within that week where you do a shift, and I would do an upper split and a lower split, and then that would be it. So you just train twice in that week and try and do some walking or a very low intensity run. Very low intensity running can boost the immune system, and your immune system is going to be compromised during that period. So I'd probably do 1 30-minute, just plod along the pavement, and then 2 training sessions, and then do it like that. And don't feel guilty. Beast yourself for 2 weeks. Have almost a week off with 2 sessions in it when you're stressed, and then do what you can sleep-wise. And then in that week, I would take adaptogens, rhodiola rosea, ashwagandha, reishi mushroom extract, CNS recovery that I designed for genetics, Adraset from Nutri. You can get raw adaptogens from other places, but that would be my personal plan.
I have nothing further to add. I would do exactly the same thing. And actually, in most of my clients' training anyway, I tend to do every fourth week, they have a deload. So they train hard. So they train hard for 3 weeks and then they deload on the fourth week anyway. So, with Lee, it's exactly the same, but he just has a slightly different cycle.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Just on a side note there, I got my vitamin D levels done the other day and mine were low. And I live in a sunny country.
But you are a serial sunscreen. Yeah, you're a serial sunscreen user, aren't you?
I am, but I also have the skin of a 24-year-old, so I don't mind. So I'm now taking my vitamin D capsules again. And actually, to be fair, I used to, and then I got lazy. So about 6 months ago, I kind of stopped, and I thought, I'm fine, I don't need it. Like, I've got a healthy diet. But it just goes to show that you can still be in a sunny country and you still need to be supplementing vitamin D, particularly if you wear sunscreen.
Definitely, totally agree.
Awesome. You just broke up there a little bit, so I'm not sure if you can still hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so this next question is from Johnny. Hi Ben and Rachel, I hope you're both keeping well and thanks for continuing such a high level of information each podcast. Big fan. My question here is related to the muscle pump. Now, unfortunately, I don't have my camera on, so you can't see me flexing my monstrous guns at the moment doing my best Arnie impression. So that will have to wait till next time. Anyway, I digress. Ben, after going to a nutrition seminar you held recently, the topic of caffeine was brought up by a friend of mine. You told us about your decision to go cold turkey from coffee, and both my friend and I have followed suit immediately as we were taking a ridiculous amount of coffee per day. I have never been a huge fan of pre-workouts, but because my high intolerance of caffeine because of my high intolerance to caffeine, I was able to take double the recommended doses and not feel any effects apart from an upset stomach. I have since stopped taking them altogether, as ironically, I'm not a huge fan of stimulants and I was becoming reliant upon them. However, one aspect of the formulas I miss is the muscle pump. I have read that cocoa taken pre-workout can increase nitric oxide and increase the pump. So as a nutritionist, can you recommend other food sources that also have this effect and the best time to consume these foods pre-workout for the desired effects? Thanks for taking the time to read my question, guys, and I hope that you can include it in the next podcast. Cheers, Johnny.
Yeah, so, I mean, the caffeine thing we've talked about a lot. I think it's really important in getting your caffeine intake low. I don't think it's beneficial for it to be high or consistently high for adrenal health, clean energy patterns that don't peak and trough. But there's kind of two things really you can do here. Now, one of the things I've said in the past is that if you want to see a muscle pump, get leaner. Like, if you can't see your muscles, there's a reason. They're covered in fat. So reduce your body fat and you'll look all nice and sexy and be able to see your muscles. Second to that, there's no reason why you couldn't take a pre-workout if you wanted to that didn't contain caffeine. So there's lots of products out there that, will focus on non-stimulant based muscular pump products. I used to use one like 3 or 4 years ago that didn't have caffeine in it, called Ragnarok by Millennium Sport Technologies. I don't think you can get it in the UK anymore. But anything that contains arginine-based nitric oxide sort of compounds will contribute to this. You can take beetroot and onions together in a pre-workout meal. That will help with muscular pump as well. And aside from that, that's kind of what you've got at your disposal, really. And then obviously carbs. Carbs will help dilate the bloodstream and make your muscle look fuller. So carbs just before a workout as well.
I'll definitely second that. So I was down in Melbourne last week teaching, and whilst I was down there, I had a bit of a refeed, and then on the weekends, I just kind of tweaked my diet a little bit, and I went slightly less fat and slightly more carbs. And I went to the gym first thing Monday morning. Also, I did have a pre-workout, I will fully admit that, because I found the old Jacked in my fridge that had you know, the one that's now banned, well, it's certainly banned in Australia anyway, so I had a scoop of Jacked, and I've obviously been eating carbs all weekend, and I went to train delts, and I was doing basically a giant set, and so I did my first 2 sets with my hoodie on, and by the time I took my hoodie off when I was sweating, I looked so frightening to myself. I could see veins in my shoulders. I actually scared myself. And I realized, I thought to myself, what the hell have I changed? It can't just be the pre-workout. And it was the fact that I just I'd been eating more carbs, and it wasn't a substantial amount either. It was just enough, obviously, for me to get a better muscle contraction and look a bit fuller and harder.
Yeah. I concur, although I'm not warranting your use of Jack 3D, of course.
No, I know. That was a boo-boo on my part. I couldn't help myself. It was like having a box of chocolates in the house. Like, I just, you know, like okay, so last week, the past couple of weeks, I've had a really bad tummy as well, so I probably shouldn't have been having it, but I haven't been training that much, and like all I've been doing is walking, and quite frankly, I just got to the stage where I was like, fuck it, I just want to go to the gym and have just a crazy session. So yeah, I did take Jacked. I'm not perfect. In fact, I'm far from it. I'm very much a bad girl. And so yeah, I took Jacked, and I went and I had an epic party pump. I looked absolutely jacked, and I had a great workout. So do I regret it? No. Will I do it again? Probably in a few months' time, but it's not something I do on a routine basis.
The old Jacked was like taking cocaine.
I know.
It's nuts, that stuff.
I know, it's crazy. So it's in the fridge for next time, whenever I decide that next time might be. Okay, on to our final question for today's podcast, and this is from Matt Woodmath from Australia. Hi guys, I love the podcast, and I'm currently completing my training certificates and plan on doing further study in nutrition. The work you do and the message that you're consistently trying to convey is a massive inspiration. Lately, I seem to be noticing a massive amount of online coaches popping up all over social media. It seems that every second guy and girl who's done a bodybuilding show or just goes into the gym and then got himself into okay shape thinks that qualifies them as a nutritionist and a coach. I'm not sure how many of these people are actually legitimately qualified to do so. I know that there are many who are, and they also do a fantastic job at it. But I can't help but wonder how many of these people are inadequately educated to be prescribing meal plans or throwing out advice on social media platforms as if it is gospel. I would love to hear your thoughts and perspective on this. I definitely think it's something that people need to be mindful of, as it seems to be that these pretend gurus just repeat shit that they have read or heard without actually having any real understanding of it and the importance of context. I hope that people are aware of not just everything they read will be factual or appropriate to them. Thanks, guys. Stay awesome. Matt.
Wow.
Whoa. Should we open this can of worms or what?
Why not? Yeah. I mean, do you know what? I almost want you to go in, Rachel, on this. I kind of feel that you are... I think you will see this a bit more. I mean, I don't look in my Facebook feed anywhere anymore, really. I go into Facebook, I do what I need to do, and I leave.
Yeah.
And, you know, this guy's from Australia as well, so perhaps this is something that's, you know, more rife in Australia. But, you know, just to mention that, you know, one problem we obviously have in the fitness industry, in the world of nutrition, is that we're kind of semi-unregulated, in that if you want to call yourself a kind of nutritionist, you can kind of do that. Now, what's important, and people sort of fail to understand, is I don't have too much of a problem. You know, I think people need to have formal qualifications and should have a grounding in basic levels of nutritional science and physiology and biochemistry, etc. But ultimately, people need to be insured to be practiced. So if people are doing things and they are not insured to practice and have, you know, had their insurance body verify their current level of qualifications, and that's where it comes into kind of problem. Like our qualification, for example, the Body Type Nutrition Academy, it's gone through insurers looking at it, and it said, right, we will insure that course, we will insure that person to teach that information to other people, so we are able to say that yes, this coach is kind of qualified to give that information. But, you know, in saying that, the social media world has grown to a point where people can just say, hi, I've done a show, I'm in shape, I've got abs, who would like online coaching, pay me some money. And away they go and they write some blogs and they're kind of away. And that has kind of been how the kind of social atmosphere around health and fitness has kind of exploded, and there's an awful lot of kind of online advice and kind of consultancy and money exchanging hands.
Yeah, it's... I'm going to be quite succinct here in what I say, but there are. I mean, look, I think it's a worldwide issue. Anybody can sort of set themselves up as to be considered an expert online, and I think that this comes down to the general public. They just need to be very aware of and be very clear about who they're accepting advice from. An example is that I get it a lot. Obviously, a lot of what I do is online, and people ask me why my products are so expensive. And, well, first of all, they're not expensive, but you get what you pay for. And if you want somebody who's got 2 degrees and some value and, can add a bit of a clinical perspective behind things, then essentially that's what it's going to cost you. If you are looking for a diet plan for $20, then I suggest that you go and find a fitness bunny on Instagram and you get what you pay for. So... unfortunately, I see this as just part and parcel of social media. I think people are starting to become more aware of who they're buying from. But then you'll also get people who do impulse purchases. Now, the biggest thing that concerns me is teenage girls. So I guess the younger girls who are 16, 17, 18-year-olds, probably up to about the 20, the 16 to 23 age range, where they see a lot of bikini and fitness girls spouting out what is terrible diet advice and basically copying. I think that that's possibly the most dangerous area. There's one particular girl here in Australia who has been so-called called out recently by mainstream media for copying diets from another blog.
Oh, is this who I think it is? Name her, fuck it.
Well, it's Ashley Bynes. Now...
Oh, is that... what's her alias name?
That's it, Ashley Bynes.
Oh, okay, this isn't the person I'm thinking of. In the UK, everyone's slating the food babe at the moment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, it's like there's news stories, blogs, all sorts of stuff.
The problem is this, right? There's been all sorts of stuff on Ashley. I'm actually going to take Ashley's side on this because I think that regardless of what people say, Ashley Bynes was one of the first people to actually put together a clean eating plan and bring it to, I guess, the younger girls and, the general public. Now, it's not the best plan, but it's also not a horrendous plan. And I look at what she's done and I think that she's actually helped more women and made, I guess, clean eating more accessible to more women than probably most have. Now, obviously, with that comes some things that are not ideal. So an example would be that recently Ashley has been called out by the media saying that some of her recipes have been stolen from another blog or another website. Well, first of all, my take on that is that's absolutely pathetic because let's be honest here, unless you're a top chef, who really owns recipes? I mean, how complex can you make, 2 eggs and a piece of bacon as an example? I'm sorry, but I'm really taking Ashley's side on this. I think she's done more good than she has harm to the fitness industry and actually getting girls active and clean eating. Perhaps it's not the way that I would do it, but that's the way that she's done it. And unfortunately, people look at her, she's made a lot of money, and people will look at her and say, oh, well, she's just made millions from, doing this, and these are all the things she's done wrong. Well, let's look at the things that she's also done right. What I think is more concerning in this situation, that Ashley's obviously got a fair few trolls out there, as we all do. And there's obviously been a couple of disgruntled fans of hers who've actually now gone and set up a full website. It's something like ashleybynesexposed.com or something like that. Now, this really concerns me. Somebody has actually gone and taken the time and effort to put together a website because they hate somebody so much. I think that's really, really fucking sad. Like, I just, there's a time and a place for these things, and there are far worse diet guidelines out there than poor Ashley's, and she's really copped the brunt of it. So, I'm here as a fully insured and a fully qualified professional. And yet I look at something like that and I can see the reality of it. And I think that a lot of people are missing that. I won't go, going back to Matt's question here, there are a lot of online coaches who haven't got a clue what they're doing. And quite frankly, they've just put together a meal plan and have started selling it because their coach gave it to them or because they've won a bodybuilding show. And that's really not the way to do it. But the reality is that, to be honest, I can't be bothered to waste my energy calling people out and, these things. These things are going to happen. I think, to be honest, I just focus on what I'm doing and really just try and help and educate as you do. And hopefully at the end of the day, karma's a bitch. Like, what goes around comes around. And if somebody does the wrong thing and they don't do it with integrity, then they're going to get called out by somebody. And, I just think that that's the way of the world, really. I think the general public have to be very aware of who they're purchasing from.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting topic, the kind of, people that get angry at other people, I just have insecurities about their own kind of stuff. I've actually got a book in my hand and I'm contemplating reading a few pages out of it because I actually read this morning. It's a new habit of mine that I read for 20 minutes when I get up first thing in the morning because I find it just gives my brain ideas. And I read this passage this morning about a woman that did something very radical in the kind of advertising world, and I'm going to read it because I think it will... by the way, this book's amazing. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's called Predatory Thinking, and the title doesn't really sort of sell the book in the way that what the book's actually about. So the book was written by an advertising agent in London. He's owned several advertising companies in London, and he basically shares really unusual stories about how it puts the world around us into perspective. And I found it a fascinating book. Like, all the chapters were like 4 or 5 pages long, really easy to read, and it just has some really cool lessons, especially for people that manage staff, are creative thinkers, look at the world in a different way, want to kind of advance themselves on a kind of personal level. And I don't know if I should read this chapter out. I don't know if it sounds almost like mundane to do it on the podcast, but I think it's interesting. So this chapter title is called Speaking the Unspeakable, and it kind of it's outlining in a different way what Rachel's speaking about. So, years ago, Cindy Gallop was an account manager at GGT. More recently, she used to be the CEO of a company in New York. She was voted Ad Woman of the Year by New York equivalent of Campaign. Recently, I saw Cindy do a TED Talk. She was launching a project she feels strongly about, a website called Make Love Not Porn. Cindy spoke in front of several hundred top decision makers in cut-class English pronunciation. She explained what she was, an older woman who liked to date young men. She explained that date was an euphemism for have sex with. So Cindy liked to have sex with young men, a lot of young men. She didn't see why talking about that should be a problem. But what was a problem is that young men had their complete view of sex dictated by internet porn. An entire generation was growing up to believe that what they saw on porn sites was the way it should be. They saw men with enormous penises and women loving it. So obviously that was the way it should be. Yeah?
No. It's like I was sat here just thinking about porn, and yeah, it does. And then I was like, does this relate to what I just said?
It will do. Bear with me. I know it's a bit of a weird one. So being that this was the total extent of most young men's sex education, this is what they believed all women enjoyed. And young women were also being educated by the same internet porn as their boyfriends. So they believed there must be something wrong if they didn't enjoy it. Cindy thought this was wrong. Not that internet porn was wrong, she quite enjoyed that. But she didn't think it would dictate what everyone should or shouldn't want. It should be okay for different people to want different things. So she set up a website to educate young people, to open up debate. But Ted was shocked by Cindy's talk. They wouldn't make it available on their main website. The subject matter was too contentious. So Cindy persuaded them to make it available on YouTube. Some of the comments it attracted were rational, but some were barely literate insults, the sort of thing you'd normally see written on the door of a public lavatory. But Cindy didn't get angry like I would have, and she didn't delete the comments like I would have. Her attitude is, we see the world not as it is, but as we are. I think that's an amazing quote. So she figured people who would make these sort of comments are actually having real problems. Maybe she could help sort them out. She's had around 800 comments on that YouTube video. So far, she's replied to 200 of them as I write this book. She replied personally to each insulting comment, asking them to contact her email address to continue the discussion. As you can imagine, this is not what people who comment anonymously want, so most of the debates end there. However, to illustrate her point, she told me about one particular comment. A guy had written something like, "Looking at a wrinkled old hag like you, who would want to come on your face anyway?" Cindy, believing the only guy wrote that because of problems in his personal life, asked him to get in touch by email. It turned out he was a 27-year-old virgin living in Eastern Europe. During their correspondence, he told Cindy that he couldn't get a girlfriend. Cindy suggested he try internet dating. She gave him some tips on how to proceed. Recently, he wrote her back to thank her, saying how he had a girlfriend and how he's in love. Cindy believes that a lot of male anger and problems come from testosterone and pent-up sexual rage. She says, there aren't many problems in the world that could be cured by a blowjob. I don't agree. I think there are lots of problems that couldn't be cured by blowjobs. But I think I learned from Cindy that maybe there are a lot of problems that could be cured that way. Something else I learned, that it's not always best to meet anger with anger. Rage fuels rage. It's purely an emotional reaction. Eventually the stronger side wins. But even if you win, you lose. You control yourself and the situation. Cindy meets anger with understanding, the rational mind that dissolves the anger because the rage has nowhere to go. It solves the anger by helping address the problem. So I suppose that's like a really weird story, but that kind of encapsulates what you're saying, is that, and I think the most amazing quote in that is the quote that I kind of highlighted. I can't remember what it was now.
100%. And one of my favourite quotes, and I use this a lot for people who sort of, you know, I guess, I mean, who personally attacked me in the past, you know, which I get on a frequent basis, is, you know, your perception of reality is a reflection of yourself. So, you know, exactly. If you don't like what I'm doing, start looking at why you don't like what I'm doing. It's probably because it's ruffling some feathers for you.
Yeah, the quote was, we see the world not as it is, but as we are.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, different interpretation of what you said. But, you know, I get, you know, blogs written about me and all sorts, like, quite often behind the doors. And, you know, I get them sent to me and I just never read them. I just think, what benefit can I get from reading them? And, you know, I can't get anything. I might get pissed off, but I just know that the people that write this kind of stuff are either jealous, they're pissed off at me. There's no point in me reacting to it because they hate me anyway. I'm not going to change their opinion. I can't change it. They have a disliking of me, whatever. And it is kind of just sad that people don't see the bigger picture. Like, I'll be honest, I think I've helped 100, maybe thousands of people. This podcast is downloaded by 20,000 people every week. That's 20,000 people that are getting impacted positively by health and fitness, performance and personal progression information. But other people don't see that. They pick on something that they might not agree with me and they're like, oh, Ben Coomber's a dickhead. And I'm like, okay, you might not agree with that, but 95% of the stuff I'm doing is pretty rational and is helping a huge amount of people. Now, don't get me wrong. Last time I checked, I'm in the health and fitness profession to help people. You're in the health and fitness profession to help people. We're both doing it. We just have 5 or 10% that's different, but we're still reaching the same end goal. I think we should be able to respect each other.
100% agree. And you know what, the best way to respond to people when they're, when they're a bit spiteful to you or anything like that, and it might be that, that's why I just think it's ridiculous, about how Ashley got called out. It's just, all she's trying to do really is help people. And the best thing you can just say is thank you. Because at the end of the day, like if somebody's attacking you, all you can turn around really and say is thank you, I really appreciate you and your comments or something like that. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing they can say back to that really and you have to genuinely mean it. Thank you, I appreciate you. End of story, done, closed.
Yeah.
But coming back to Matt's question here, look, it is a problem in the industry. I'm not particularly bothered by it. I think it's one of those things that it's always going to be there. It's a bit of fluff that's going on. Rise above, find a good coach, and look for somebody who's obviously well qualified and has been doing it for a fair few years and who's got some really good results. And not just testimonials from a 3-week or a 6-week plan, but ask to see photos of what does somebody, to be honest, I think the most impressive ones are what somebody looks like 6 months to a year down the track. Also, totally. Food for thought.
Yeah, that is a very good idea. That is a good point.
Yeah.
Because the coaches that are probably doing a bad job, they're probably the ones where their clients are looking for a new coach 3 or 4 months later.
Yes.
If you've done your job properly, those people have changed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think that was a good little chapter you read out there. I think it's very, it puts a kind of like another perspective on things. And as you know, everyone can relate to sex.
Yeah, it can. I know we don't talk about sex much, or maybe not often enough, but it's a powerful thing that is on everyone's mind. We're all mammals. We all think about it. We all do it. Well, hopefully we all do it. If not, but this book. Can
I just ask you a question though? Because I thought that all problems were solved by blowjobs. just in my experience.
I'm not going to comment. I feel this could get me in trouble.
I think we should probably end that there.
So if anyone wanted to read that book, it's called Predatory Thinking. I think it's really good. It's not what the label says. Who's the author? The author is Dave Trott. Trott. It's got a black cover and it just says Predatory Thinking.
That's pretty badass. I quite like that title. I really
enjoyed it. It even talked about, like, for example, D-Day, where everyone pulled up on the beach in Germany and loads of people died and it was a very tragic day. Yeah. We obviously remember it in English history. Well, there's only ever 8 photos of D-Day. That's it. And the reason why that happened is the photographer jumped out of the boat onto the shore, hid behind one of those girders and was, obviously taking photos like mad. He jumped back onto one of the boats that came in, jumped on, said to the guy, he said, "Hey, I'm a photographer, I need to get back to the UK and process these photos to be put in the newspapers ASAP." So they fast-tracked him back to England, they got him back, and he handed his camera over to the photograph developers. Now, the photograph developers have had a 15-year-old intern at the moment in time, and he put the incorrect temperature into the drying room and it melted all of the photos bar 8. So it's got loads of these really cool little stories in it that kind of makes you think and relates back to the kind of the environment that we live in, about how moments in your life can change and how you need to think about things and stuff, and just a simple mistake like that changed how we see the rest of history. It was just it's got loads of cool stories in it like that.
Oh, that's very cool. I'm going to have to add that to my list.
Right, let's wrap up the show. Rachel, it's been an honour as always. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Benny. It's lovely to be back.
Thank you for tuning in. If you want to check out Rachel, please visit the athleticfox.com. So you can also find her on Facebook and Twitter under Athletic Fox or Rachel Guy. If you would like to see both of us, largely me, of course, in Marbella in Spain, go and jump onto bodytypenutrition.co.uk and have a look at the retreats we're running this summer. It's going to be an absolute ton of fun. You want to see the location. The location is seriously impressive. It's absolutely awesome. And the Scotland Conference coming up on the 23rd and the 24th of May. If you've enjoyed the show, please do me the massive honour of hitting like, sharing it, doing something on social media that shares the show with someone else. And if you haven't yet done so, which is a lot of you, we've got 461 reviews currently on iTunes. If you're one of those people that has not written a review on iTunes, or if you listen on Stitcher, please do me the massive honour of just jumping on, spending 2 minutes and writing us a review. It helps other people find the show, and it enables iTunes to keep recognising our show as a top show. Right, I will see you next week on the podcast with Gary Turner. I'm getting him back to do a depression and body image second episode, because I still feel that a lot of that information is being left untouched and I need to go deeper into it to help more people. So I will see you then, and me and Rachel will be back the week after. That's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me. Thank you very much, and I'll see you very soon.
Adios, amigos! Hey everyone, Coomber Radio, episode number 134, I think. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all about the information. Don't you just worry. So today I am in touch with America. I am in touch with an organisation that I would say are doing some pretty incredible things when it comes to nutritional research